It's not just the Los Angeles Kings who are getting ready to go on a fun playoff run. It's the Ontario Reign as well. Their dreams for a postseason exciting time start tonight as they take on the San Diego Gulls in the first round of the AHL playoffs. Looking at all of that on today's episode of Locked On Los Angeles Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, happy Wednesday. You're listening to Locked On Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and we're going to talk to you all about the Ontario Reign today because as the Kings are, getting ready for Game 2 tonight, the Reign are ready for Game 1 as they take on the San Diego Gulls in the best of 3 series for their opening round in the AHL playoffs. So since we didn't do a little mini Kings Monday show or a tiny Kings Tuesday show this week because of keeping up with the Kings playoff excitement, we are doing a Wednesday edition. I can't think of a cool alliterative fun thing for this Wednesday edition of the show, so just use your imagination. But we have Jay Forster, friend of the show, Ontario Reign aficionado, on the show today to help preview the series against the Gulls. So let's get right to it. This edition of Locked On Reign, let's call it. All right, you're listening and or watching Locked On Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. My name's Sarah. Glad to be here with you talking about your favorite hockey team and mine. Today, we're talking about the Ontario Reign because we, of course, have been checking in on the Kings and their playoff hopes and dreams and, the desire to win it for Dustin Brown or whatever. But we've also got a whole other team that is in the playoffs, and that is the Ontario Reign. So on today's episode of the show, it's a delayed mini Kings Monday / Tiny Kings Tuesday / whatever. We're looking at the Ontario Reign. And so we have friend of the show, Jay Forster of Locked On Blue Jackets, AKA, just here for the vibes. Like,
I'm here to bandwagon and root
cool.
for chaos.
I'm into that.
That is my role now that the Blue Jackets have started their summer process. But no, I'm going to be covering the Reign in their playoff run, which I think we've talked about before on many Mini King Mondays. It's likely to be significantly longer than the LA Kings. So go Reign. We love our small children around here, and they are doing. Our small subpar children are the most above par it's possible to be right now.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, and I think that they're a legitimately good team. It's not one of those we snuck in at the last minute or any kind of situation. Like the Reign are looked at as having a pretty good shot of going far in the playoffs. So we're going to look at their first round matchup against the Gulls, which is coming up. It is a best of 3 because the AHL can't possibly do things, the way that we're all used to. So this first round, best of 3, the higher seeded team gets all of the games. So all 3 games are going to be played in Ontario, which again, #AHL. So we're going to talk about that today, but we do want to look at a couple of different things. One is TJ Tynan and his quest for 100 points, as well as some honors doled out to Reign players at the end of the regular season. So we'll start with TJ Tynan. I feel like last time we talked, we were trying to figure out, was he going to reach 100 points? He was sitting at 98 with 1 game left to go. And the Reign not only didn't help him get any points, the Reign got no points in that. No one scored. They lost 4-0 to Henderson in a game that I think that they all just sort of, they showed up sort of. That's about it.
I mean, they turned up, and therefore, it was. I feel bad for criticizing like these end of season games because I genuinely don't think that they do phone these games in because I don't know that NHL players or AHL players are capable of phoning in a hockey game.
Right.
They're just not wired that way. But it felt very much like okay, let's just get through this game without breaking anyone and without, let's stay fresh enough to face face the Gulls. You know, they don't have the luxury of Stockton, who get a week off to anticipate whoever's coming out of the Pacific. But yeah, we were so excited, and not only did the team let us down, they let the fans down, and they let TJ Tynan's quest to hit 100 points down.
He was so close, and
He
of
was so
course,
close.
like earlier in the day, so Tynan and Andrew Podorowski from the Wolves were like neck and neck, kind of trading back and forth the league lead. The Wolves played earlier that day, and of course, Andrew Podorowski got 2 points to finish his season with 101 points. So he's now the back-to-back scoring champion for the league because he won last year as well. So
There's no way Podorowski is a Wolf next season. Like, no, he has to be on the Hurricanes, right? Like, at
you
this
would
point,
think so, but like he's such a like AHL lifer that he kind of is in that same category as TJ Tynan of players who shouldn't be in the AHL but have just never. He played a couple games for the NHL this season, but like didn't really get an extended look, and it's the same frustrations for him that we have talked about for Tynan of. This guy should not be in this league. This guy is better than this, but just hasn't been able to stick. And yeah, he got 2 assists. And I was, I'm watching the Reign game start, and I'm like, all right, Tynan, you got some work to do. You at least 3 points if you want to tie. Yeah, and then nothing.
Actually, no one did. I know, because I was talking to Dina Weinheimer of Field Pass Hockey about this. Actually, the topic of the scoring title came up. In Tynan's defense, he played, I think, 10 fewer games than Podorowski.
Yeah.
And came up 3 points short. And then I looked, and I think my math might be way off on this. I'm very bad at math. He was about 1.5 points per game player. I think he was like 1.56 points per game or something, Tynan. So if he'd played those 10 games, like,
he would have. Yeah.
That's so many points. Even if he'd played, maybe 3 more games, that's potentially another 5 points in there, so this is not to take away from what Podorowski did. Hitting 100 points in the AHL hasn't been done in a bajillion years. It's very, very impressive. Just because of the nature of the AHL is that it's either children or guys that are 48 and just won one last year before calling it a career,
I mean, don't talk about Chris Chelios like that. No.
Listen.
He legit played when he was like 45 or something. It was great.
Yeah, just why not? Chris Chelios just hanging out with all of the 19-year-olds.
Live your best life.
Europeans that didn't want to go back to Europe.
Yeah, it's fine.
But yeah, so not to like take away from what Podorowski did. Super, super impressive. But if Tynan hadn't had, because Tynan got called up for a minute, I think.
Yeah.
If he hadn't had that call up and he'd hit the full number of games, I fully believe.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way he would have gone those 10 games that he missed by being up with the Kings by scoring 0 points.
Right.
Which I think is what makes it so frustrating that he got so close and he did it in way fewer games.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, very impressive. Like, yeah, I didn't have time to like find them, but there's some stats out there about how like his point per game pace is like just has blown like anyone else out of the water over the past however many years of the AHL. Like, and yeah, if he had played a full season, it would have been crazy. We also had some other honors doled out to Tynan and others for this season. Jordan Spence was named to the AHL's all rookie team. So awesome for him, even though he, didn't play the whole season because we had to steal him for the NHL. He's on the all rookie team. He also was named to the first All-Star team along with TJ Tynan. Martin Ferk was named to the second All-Star team. Jordan Spence has 42 points this season. He's the top scoring rookie defenseman in the AHL. Again, only played 46 games. So 42 points in 46 games in the AHL. He has a bunch of points on the power play. He also is, even if you look just at defensemen in general, not just rookies, he's up there at the top of the scoring charts. And he also is...
Sorry, I believe he was 8th in the league in scoring for
Yeah.
defensemen.
Yeah.
As
like,
a
just-
rookie that
yeah.
missed a bunch of time because he had to go and play for the Kings because all of the Kings defensemen were dead. Just like
Right, they
just an
all.
unreal season that I think surprised legitimately everyone. I think it surprised him as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like I was when Sean Dursey went up to the Kings, I was kind of like, oh man, that sucks. There goes the number one defenseman. What are the Reign going to kind of do now with this cobbled together defense unit that they have now that everyone has been stolen? And apparently Jordan Spence was like, well, I'll just do everything. And
yeah, it's fine.
Did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
So good job to our smallest son.
Yeah. It's a cool honor for him. And of course, to be honored with so many of his other teammates for their performances. Like I said, TJ Tynan on the top AHL All-Star list, and then Ferk on the second team. He's the first player in Reign franchise history to score 40 goals in a season. And, as we've talked about before, no one has hit 40 goals in general in the AHL since the 2010-11 season. Ferk came up just a little bit short of the scoring lead there. I think Stefan Nason from the Wolves ended with like 48 goals or something, which is just absurd. I was like, okay, Martin Ferk's really going to need to pop off in that last game if he wants to
God, can you imagine?
To catch him. Yeah.
But it is 17-2 to the Reign, and all of the goals are Martin Ferk.
Right. Like, why not? Why not? But he's had a phenomenal year. Again, another player who you're like, oh, you should just be in the NHL. Like, why? But, can't lie. I'm excited that he's with the Reign and can help them through their playoff push. But
like fully selfishly, like as someone that's kind of gone to cover the Reign and has gotten to know this team over the season, like, they deserve to be in the NHL. I can't say that I'm upset that I get to watch them play more and to cover them in this playoff run that, like we kind of talked about at the top of the show, probably going to be longer and more meaningful than however many games the Kings need to get curb stomped by Connor McDavid,
Connor McDavid specifically, no one else.
It's literally just Connor McDavid. Okay, no, that's unfair. Leon Draisaitl also exists, but
who else is even on the Oilers?
Zach Kassian.
Really? He's still there?
Mm-hmm. They've got 41-year-old Mike Smith.
That's right.
Who I believe is under contract next season still.
God bless the Oilers.
Like, they've got the player of which we do not speak and who I will not even really mention because I don't care. They've got Evan Bouchard. They've got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. And that is the full list of Oilers that I can name because they traded everybody else.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, they've got Jesse Puljujarvi as well. That's it. That's all of the Oilers.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the relevant ones.
Really worth worrying about, frankly. Yeah. Sorry to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, but it's he knows. Yeah. He knows who the big guns on this team are. You know?
It's not. It's not. We've got more coming up all about the AHL and the Reign's playoff hopes and dreams. But before we do that, we're going to talk about rockauto.com first. Because if you have a car or if you have a truck, chances are you've needed to replace something in it. And if you need to replace something in it, then that means you have to go to the store. And when you go to the store, you have to usually talk to someone who is going to tell you that they probably don't even have the part you need in stock. Save yourself time, save yourself money, save yourself frustration, and just go online to rockauto.com and make the purchase there. They have parts for basically any car or truck you could think of, and their website is super easy to use. So all you have to do is go on their website, plug in the make, the model, the year of your vehicle, and it'll tell you all the parts they have available. Prices are always reliably low for any customer, and they've been serving customers online for over 20 years. So this family-run business knows what they're doing. So if you are in need of car parts, go to rockauto.com, see what they've got available for your car or your truck, and when you're checking out, tell them that Locked On sent you. So that is rockauto.com, reliable prices and all that other great stuff. So go check it out. We have our own playoff matchup to look at, which is the Reign and the Gulls, which is a matchup that I was not super excited about. And then before we started recording, we were looking at the record of head-to-head of the team. And it turns out it's actually a lot better than I thought it was, except for this like blip in March, which we realized was the time where all of the Kings defensemen died. And so they had to take the entire Ontario Reign lineup essentially.
Yeah,
And
you
the Reign
can
just like
pinpoint the
apart.
moment in the Reign season where Drew Doughty and Mikey Anderson and Matt Roy all went down within like a week of each other. Because I was flipping through because the AHL website is terrible and doesn't give you any of the stats that you need ever. You had to go through manually and do like, okay, 1 win, 2 wins, 1 win, 2 wins, 1 loss, 2 losses, and so I was going through and I hit like mid-March and I was like, what went wrong? And then I kind of thought about it and I was like, oh,
yeah,
Kings is what went wrong.
yeah,
So
they're all gone. It was the record was what, like 9-3, I think, in favor of
yes,
the Kings.
it was 8 regulation wins, 1 overtime win, 3 regulation losses, which, like you said, I think is better than expected. I feel like because they had back-to-back losses against the Gulls. Like they played other games in between, but they lost like 2 in a row versus the Gulls. I think that biased us to being like, oh, they played way worse against the Gulls than we thought. But no, they actually, for the most part, did pretty well against the Gulls. I don't necessarily want to have to pay attention to the San Diego Gulls longer than I need to.
No.
But I would like to think that the Kings, the Reign have a pretty good chance. I'd like to think the Kings could beat the Gulls. Otherwise, I feel like we have deeper organizational issues here.
Right. There's a big problem if not.
But I feel pretty good about the Reign's chances against the Gulls.
Yeah.
Especially because.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, so like I that's kind of where I'm at too and I think for me too, I think the Reign also did really bad against the Gulls in the preseason. And so my brain is still stuck on that of like, oh man, it was just like garbage from day one. And like, no, they pulled it together. And this is, of the other possible matchups the Reign could have fallen into. I feel like it would be like Reign Gulls, or despite like the outcome of the final game, I wouldn't have minded playing Henderson because
no, I was just thinking about that. I was like, man,
matched up
Henderson would have
pretty
been such a
well.
nice matchup. And then I looked at the final score of the season and was like, well, crap.
Yeah. And I mean, the downside of Henderson is,
Travel.
well, A, travel, B, since Vegas got punted out of their playoff hopes and dreams, LOL. I know that Henderson's gonna get back at least a few players, I think. And so that's only gonna make them better of having these guys who,
and correct me if I'm wrong, and Jason Hernandez of Locked On Ducks would probably be the better person to ask about this, but didn't the Ducks keep all of their good players? Like they didn't send a bunch down. They didn't do the paper transaction thing, which in fairness, neither did the Kings. I don't think Jordan Spence was the only guy that got sent down on paper, right?
I think it was like Spence. There were a couple. Spence was like the most consequential of them, I think. But I think they did their max of like 4 or whatever. Because it was Spence, Velarde. I think they might have fake transitioned Byfield too.
that would make sense.
Yeah,
and I feel like Anderson Dolan was up at the time as well, but obviously he finished the season in Ontario, so it doesn't. It didn't super affect that. But I feel like the Ducks didn't really move any of their good young players down because they could have like paper transactioned like Trevor Zegras, for example, or I don't know if Jamie Drysdale is still AHL eligible. I think he is, but they could have sent those guys down, and as much as I say, oh yeah, I feel pretty good about watching the Reign play the Gulls, I don't necessarily want to play the Gulls when they have Trevor Zegras.
Right. Yeah. So I looked, and the final transactions from the Gulls at the end of their season, they received back Simon Benoit, Trevor Carrick, Hunter Drew, and Buddy Robinson, who I still don't think is a real person. So they're all 4 they're all bodies, but I don't really know that any of them are going to be. I know Hunter Drew's been pretty good this season, but I don't know that any of them are like
good specifically against the Reign.
Right. They're not like game changers. Like, it wasn't like, you're getting back what's his face? Trevor Zegras, I forgot his name.
The least mediocre of the Trevors.
Right, yeah. Or it's not like, okay, say the Kings get punted out and they send down Jordan Spence, Gabe Velarde, Quentin Byfield, like that's going to be huge for the Reign. The
Right.
Gulls don't have that. So I think, there's other players who had been back and forth all season who they could have sent back as well, but the Ducks didn't do that. So yeah, they could have sent back like the other Carrick or there's other guys up there who would have been eligible to play, and they just didn't. So I think a lot of their like firepower is not there, which is really helpful for the Reign.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I'm
mean, I
not
feel
gonna
great about it, but it
complain.
is extremely. It was a very confusing way to do it, and I feel like I
Mhm.
don't know if this is like endemic of the NHL in general, because I feel like there was less. Like, do you remember a few years ago? It would have been probably like 2015 or whatever, when teams would be like. The most specific one I remember is, for some reason, it was when Bo Bennett was still on the Penguins,
Mm,
and it was like
mhm.
the Bo Bennett Olimata Penguins, and they both got sent down to Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and everyone was like, "How dare you?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
on the day of the trade deadline you do this to me?" And everyone was like, "It's paper transaction. They're getting back tomorrow. Calm
yeah,
down."
yeah.
And I feel like there hasn't been. I don't think there was down. There was no one on any team that was like a Trevor Zegras that people would
Mhm.
have freaked out about. Of, oh my god, Trevor Zegras is going down to the AHL, and then have people be like, calm down, it's a paper transaction, And
Right.
so I don't know if that's a thing that has kind of fallen out of favor with the NHL, but like you said, I am surprised that there were guys that they could have set down and just I
Yeah.
guess didn't feel like making them make the drive to San Diego from Anaheim. I don't know.
It's not that far. It's not that far.
Yeah.
They coulda.
Literally like what, an hour and a half?
Yeah. I think it's like back in the day when like Shea Theodore was on, like him and who was it? Like Brandon Montour. Like they literally talked about taking like the Amtrak between
Mm.
San Diego and Anaheim to when they got called back up and everything. So it's totally doable. The Gulls are led in scoring. Alex Limoges is their top scorer with 40 points in 62 games. Nicholas Brouillard, Hunter Drew, Jacob Perreault. Perreault, I think, is like he can be dangerous. He is probably one of their top performers. They also got Lucas Elvenes, who had that weird situation where like he was part of Vegas's organization. Vegas waived him with the intention of ending his contract. Elvenes was going to go back to Europe. And I think there was also, this was before the Olympics. And so there was kind of some talk about he maybe wanted to go play for Team Sweden, knew he didn't have a pathway to the NHL with Vegas in general. And and then the Gulls picked him up on waivers, and everyone was like, "Okay, what? I hope you talked to him before you did this." But he's been really good for them. He has 33 points in 43 games with San Diego. When he was with Henderson, he had 10 points in 20 games. So clearly, playing with a better team, playing with kind of a renewed energy. He used to be on the Chicago Wolves whenever the Wolves were part of Vegas's system, and was huge for them in their playoff run. So he is a guy with playoff experience here in North America. Definitely can like elevate his game in big moments. And so I'm like, oh man, you go
Not
away.
you.
You were supposed to go back to Europe, and instead here you're on this team that I now like. We're going to close out the show with some more thoughts all about the Ontario Reign, but before we get there, want to tell you about some snacks, because it is the playoffs, and playoffs means that you're usually like sitting in front of your television super stressed out, and all you want is to, like, I don't know, if you're me, you want to stress eat. And so why not stress eat with something that's actually tasty and also good for you? So you can go to built.com and see all of the great different flavors of Built protein bars, the Built Puffs. They've got Built granola bars now, all sorts of tasty things that are also, low in sugar, low in carbs, high in protein, high fiber, and basically all around good for you. So it's a great time to stock up on some snacks and be ready for that like triple overtime playoff action that is coming at you. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That is built.com. promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order of some delicious snacks. Great. The Gulls are they're really hard for me to get a read on. Like, we played them 12 times this year, and I still am like, I don't know what they
Yeah, it
are.
feels like I would not be surprised if the Gulls. I'm gonna just knock on my wooden desk. I would not be surprised if the Gulls won both games needed to win this series. A 3-game series is frustrating because it's
So random.
enough time for a goalie to get hot.
Mm-hmm.
And not enough time, I think, for the teams to bat. Like 7 games is the perfect amount of games. I understand that because of the way that the AHL is funded, the way that it works, the way that the playoffs are set out, they can't do full 7-game series like in the NHL. But 3 games just feels so like you have one bad game and suddenly it's win or die.
Yeah.
And hopefully the Reign can go out strong, win game 1, and then suddenly they're in a better position. But I worry that if they go out and kind of maybe don't take the Gulls seriously because, lol, it's the Gulls or whatever, and they don't have any of their good players because all of their good players are trapped in Anaheim, then it could really kind of come back and bite them. I also don't have a super good read on their goaltending situation. I feel like, where is he? Here he is. Luca Dostal is kind of the de facto starter. He played 40 games this season. 18 wins, 14 losses, 4 overtime losses, and 2 shootout losses. Had a .916 save percentage, though.
Yeah.
Which is, and then obviously last year with the playoffs, he played 3 playoff games and had a .935 save percentage despite winning 1 and losing 2, So I feel like that could be a problem, because I feel like that's been the Reign's issue. Not all season. I feel we need to give Matt Villalta a lot of credit for how he's played this season, especially considering I don't know that he was expecting, or anyone in the organization was expecting, him to suddenly become the full-time starter. But Garrett Sparks went down with an injury and then just kind of disappeared from off the face of the earth. But yeah, goaltending could get interesting if Luca Dostal turns up, as sometimes Luca Dostal does. That could, like I said, it could turn into a goalie battle, which I mean I love, but also is not super great for my blood pressure.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think that, if I had to pick sort of a key to the series or a thing the series is going to hinge on, it really is going to be goaltending. The Reign clearly have the better in terms of firepower for scoring. Even though some of their top defensemen are still up with the Kings, I think that they've kind of pulled it together. That last game notwithstanding, where it was just sort of like, let's get through this and whatever. So if we're looking at anything except goaltending, the Reign have the better power play. They have the best power play in the league. The Gulls aren't exactly a team that stays out of the penalty box, so all up front, everything to me sort of tips to the Reign, but Luca Dostal has stolen games. I've watched him do it. And yeah, it's like if the Reign have one off night and the games are all so close together, you don't really have time to clear your head if you're, getting in your head about it. The games are the 4th, the 5th, and the 9th. So games 1 and 2 are back to back.
That's going to be.
That's so huge. AHL.
Yeah. Matt Villalta has played just under 500 minutes more this season than Luca Dostal. Matt Villalta has played the 4th most in the AHL this season. We should take a second to pour one out for Connor Ingram in Milwaukee, who played almost 3,200 minutes this season.
God, that's so much.
That's all of the minutes. That is 54 games Connor Ingram played this season.
Yeah.
It's too many. So yeah, that is, I think, and it's something that I hadn't even considered until we started talking about this series, I was like, oh, dang, they have a goalie that could just decide to turn into a god, because sometimes goalies do that, sometimes a goalie just has a game and then the game turns. I mean, look at Carey Price in basically every playoff series ever. Or a more topical one, Jonathan Quick in 2012. who just
Mhm.
decided that he was winning the Stanley Cup and everyone
Yeah.
could come along if they wanted, but the bus leaves in an hour,
Yeah, yeah.
And Luca Dostal has the vibe of a guy that could just be like, listen,
Mhm.
I'm winning this cup. If
Mhm.
you guys want to come along, you can, but you're not necessary.
Yeah. I mean, heck,
So
he scored a goal this season, so he may
exactly.
even score for his team.
He doesn't even need the scorers. Like
No.
Trevor Zegras, never heard of him. We
Yeah.
only care about Luca Dostal here. So
Yeah. So that's what I'm afraid of. I remember last season in the like fake playoff bubble tournament thing that the Pacific did. The Gulls, they didn't win, but Dostal is what kept them in it, and was
yeah,
what made it scary for teams facing the Gulls.
yeah.
And he also has to stop a lot of pucks because a lot get through to him.
I was going to say, let me just
And
pull up the playoff stats again because I know we had a 9-3. He had a 9-3-5 in 3 games. He allowed 8 goals, and he faced in 3 games. He faced over 120 shots.
like that should be enough for your team to
He faced
win.
okay, hang on, I've done the math. He faced 124 shots over 3
That's
games.
That's so many. I can't do math, but that's a lot per game.
It's like 41 and a bit shots per game, which I don't know if I'm biased because I'm a goalie myself, but that feels like too many shots
Yeah.
for your goalie to want to face.
Yeah.
Like in a perfect world, they'd face like 10 a game and everyone would be happy. But
Right.
I think like in a realistic world, if your goalie is facing more than 25 shots a game
Mhm.
regularly, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
like you shouldn't.
he was out here facing 40 goals
Yeah.
a
I feel like
game.
he and Matt Villalta could totally share, like, a fist bump over this because especially, like, I feel like the Reign have been a little better at it this season in terms of not letting him see 45 shots a game, but definitely in past years, it's been a chronic like, even when, Cal Peterson was still with the Reign, he would constantly top the, like, lists of goaltenders in terms of minutes played and shots faced, because the Reign were just like, "Oh, we're gonna give up 45 shots again tonight, cool," and so I feel like Matt Villalta, like, he's been there.
Yeah, hang on.
He knows.
I could do some quick math with the
What?
help of my handy dandy personal abacus. It's the calculator app on my phone. Matt
Okay.
Villalta faced 1,363 shots in 46 games, which is an average of it's an average of 29 and a half shots per game,
That's so much better
which
than
is
past
a
years.
little high, but it's a little high, but much better than I was expecting. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
yeah.
Luca Dostal faced 1,133 in 40 games, which is actually just under, which is 28.3 shots a game. So again,
No.
still a little high,
Yeah.
but I would be very.
It feels like a
This game's
trap.
gonna be messy.
Yeah.
And I
Now I'm
feel like I don't
afraid.
want to get caught in the trap that we did a few weeks ago when we previewed the Blue Jackets LA Kings game. We were like, it's
Mhm.
gonna be messy, there's gonna be a million goals.
Yeah,
Jonathan Cook's gonna fight a referee. And it was a very, very boring 2-1 win.
yeah,
But it would not surprise me if these turned into like just absolute disaster. Like
yeah,
someone has 45 shots on goal
yeah,
and scores twice.
yeah. Or like, I mean, or the Reigns' whole vibe this year has been, "Oh, we just allowed 3 goals. Okay, fine. We'll score 3 more." Like, they've
Well,
been
yeah.
very
Oh, you
big,
want to score 3
like
goals? Cool. We'll score
yeah,
7. Yeah.
yeah.
The
So
Reign the Reign have kind of scored at will this
mhm.
season, and it's worked up until it hasn't. And honestly, looking at the goalies that are in the Pacific Division, like the guys that are starting, you got Dustin Wolf in Stockton, you got Eustace Anunen in Colorado, Ivan Provatsev in Tucson, Luca Dostal in San Diego, obviously. Those are the only goalies in the top 20 for like minutes played.
Yeah.
Of those guys, genuinely, I think only Luca Dostal has the ability to just decide that no, he's
Mhm.
going to ruin the Reign's day. You
Yeah.
can't score goals at will.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to have to figure out how to play better team defense because they can't. I don't think they're going to win a lot of 5-4 games in the playoffs.
No.
It's just not how the playoffs go.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I know with Stockton, like Dustin Wolf has been crazy good this season, but the Stockton Heat are also crazy good. Like I feel like he's one of those. I'd like to know how he is away from that team to really know, like, is this a goalie I need to be afraid of, or is it the team that I need to be afraid of?
Right.
But speaking of Stockton, they did lose their last game, which knocked them out of the number 1 team in the league. So that was very satisfying. They lost to Bakersfield in their final game of the season. Had Stockton won in any fashion, they would have beat the Wolves out for the league championship thingy. But Stockton blew it, so they're number 2. So feels no impact on us or the Reign or anything, but
just very satisfying. Try again next year, Stockton.
Right, good luck.
Likely they won't, because I feel like Dustin Wolf is going to be a flame.
Yeah,
season.
He's
been extremely good. He's the highest save percentage in the AHL by a lot. Oh no, I lied. He's 4th. Troy Grosnick has a 933.
Where's he even playing now?
Bruins.
Oh,
what the heck?
Surprise!
I guess.
I have literally no idea what goes on in the East. Like no idea what happens in the East for the AHL.
I pay attention to the Monsters, and I still don't have any idea what goes on in the East. So
fair.
Anyway, this has been we'll call this segment Stats with Jay or something, and it's just me reading off of the AHL website and talking about goalies.
That's fair. So we'll see how it goes. I feel like I haven't had the so with the Kings, I have like the reverse jinx of like I have to say they're going to do bad because then they just win to spite me, which is fine. I don't really have a vibe on like how my like superstition impacts the Reign, so I'm gonna like abstain from making a prediction.
Yeah, if you
I don't want to break it.
Hubristic, if you have hubris, I don't know if there's a word for someone who has hubris, but this feels like a moment where the hockey gods will strike you down and be like, you thought your jinx wasn't real here.
Exactly. So I'm just gonna, I have no thoughts.
To make predictions also because my powers can only be used for evil. Is what I have learned in my time covering hockey, is that my psychic powers can only be used for evil and absolutely not good or joy or anything positive ever.
Yeah. So no predictions, just vibes. We're going to hope it's a fun time. Like I said, the Reign kick off their playoff series on May 4th, 7 p.m. in Ontario. Game 2 is the 5th. Game 3, if needed, is the 9th, because this is the AHL and we got to do things weird.
where the dates are made up and the games don't matter.
Yeah, the points only sort of matter depending on who you ask. So we'll, of course, keep you all up to date on what's happening with the Reign and how their playoff run goes. We're going to cross our fingers for fun, because that's what we're here for. Jay, where can folks find you and your Reign playoff excitement online?
So you can find me over at _Jacob Forster, which is JAKOB FORSTER. If you're watching on YouTube, it is down here. If you would like to know how to spell it, I'm going to be doing Reign playoff coverage over at FPH Reign. I will not be live tweeting the games because they happen at like 3 a.m. for me, and I am old and have a bedtime now. But I will be doing series previews. I'll be doing game recaps, all that kind of fun stuff over there. And I think that's about it. You can go and listen to Locked On Blue Jackets, but it's the off season now, so it's mostly going to be me talking about team dogs and ranking who has the best hair. So, I do have. I don't know when this is airing. Either Tuesday or Wednesday, I assume. At some point in the next couple of days, I will have a specific playoff preview out for the series against the Gulls going up at FPH Reign. So if you would like to hear what we just talked about, mostly in a slightly more professional, less chaotic written down form, then fieldpasshockey.com is where you can find that.
All right, and I'm on Twitter at Right Said Sarah. It's WRITE Said Sarah with an H. Locked On Kings is at Locked On LA Kings. The show is available wherever you get your podcasts. Also on YouTube. We'll be following along with the Kings and the Reign for both of their playoff hopes and dreams as we just experience playoff hockey for the first time in years. So I'm super excited. Thank you so much for listening. Come back because there'll be great content all week long talking about our great allegedly hockey teams. Thanks for listening. This has been Locked On Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.